Hello, everyone. I'm Robin Grable, the founder of Talents Ascend and the Ascend Collective, and your host for Ascending Beyond Barriers. Welcome. Ascending Beyond Barriers is an inspiring podcast dedicated to showcasing the remarkable journeys of small business founders who have faced and overcome significant challenges on their path to success. Each episode delves into the personal stories of entrepreneurs from diverse backgrounds, highlighting their unique experiences, struggles, and triumphs. Today, I'm excited to welcome Guillermo Avila. He's the driving force behind 365 Digital Technologies, leading enterprise performance across the U.S. through ERP deployments, project management, consulting, and CIO advisory. With a bachelor's in communication and a master's in business management, Guillermo brings a passion for leadership and a proven track record with companies such as Fluor, Shinola, Filson, ATCC, and Beatbox. Beyond business, he mentors with the Hispanic Alliance and champions opportunity through the Guillermo and Julia Avila Scholarship Fund, supporting minority students in honor of his parents. Guillermo, thank you so much for being here today. It's so good to meet you. As we talked offline, I obviously know your lovely wife, Elaine. I met her through the 10KSB program last year, which, as we were talking about how fast time flies, but just a wonderful person. So great to meet you as well. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your story. I want to start, though, with, I'm sure there's probably people out there saying, what is ERP? Now, I happen to know what it means, but tell us what that is.
Yeah, the best way to describe it to folks is, if you think of the simplicity of QuickBooks on steroids times 1,000, you're basically looking at large enterprise level companies that are using the finance pieces, but then you've got manufacturing, distribution, logistics, purchasing. You just got really complex type setups that a company uses to run itself, and that's basically what we're doing. Is we're working with those companies that are using that enterprise level platform to run their company.
All right. So how did you get into this? How did you start your business?
So we started this past May was year 6. And
congratulations.
Thank you. It's one of those things when we got over it, we were like, wow, it's been 6 years and it still seems as hard as year 1.
Right?
It's a lot of work being a small business owner. And it just came down to, my wife played a huge part of going to start the business. I was consulting with one of the big firms out there, and I remember just sitting down with my wife and I just said, if I had the opportunity, I would do things differently. And it came out of a situation where I was working with a client. There was a lot of friction, and I was spending a lot of time with that client trying to smooth over things. And my boss at the time said, "You're spending too much time with the client." And I remember just telling Elaine, my wife, this just doesn't seem right. It seems like this is what we're supposed to be doing. And so she just said, we've got some savings. If we're going to start a business, this is the time to do it. And so we did. We ended up having some folks who had some faith in us. We have an attorney friend of ours who wrote me. I've got it framed up on the wall right there.
Nice.
It's a note that he wrote that basically just said, I have the faith in you to do this business, and I'm going to gift you a free LLC. And I hung it up on the wall because it's like my inspiration every day that there are people who had faith in me to do this. And so we did it. So 6 years ago, we were able to land a small little contract, and it was able to get us through. And now we've, gotten to the point where we have about 10 employees, about 10 to 15 subcontractors, and we're busy. We're a busy crew.
Nice. Well, congratulations. That is, and I got chills when you were saying that, because it is so true that as a small business owner, you feel like sometimes you're out there all by yourself and nobody else has ever gone through all these problems that you're facing. But to have somebody believe in you, I know how that feels. And it is a good feeling and definitely inspiration. So, what do you think was the biggest challenge then after getting started? Like, you got the contract, which is great because a lot of times that takes a while to get your first client. What would you say was the struggle in that business startup?
My wife and I have had this conversation a ton because when we started this business, I think just like every other small business owner, is you don't know what you don't know, right?
Right.
And so
Yeah.
we're kind of fumbling along, acting as though we know what we're doing, and I
Yeah.
think when we started connecting in with invaluable services, for myself, it was connecting with the chamber and getting connected to their business accelerator and meeting with
Yeah.
coaches and with teachers that were like, here's the proper way to set up your books. Is this the way you have it set up? And I
Right.
remember coming home to my wife and I said, our coach said, and we ended up having to redo some things, because they weren't set up the way that our coaches had advised us. And so we started to connect in with really key people that believed in us enough to start coaching us through some of those hurdles that we simply didn't know how to get through. And they're just
Yep.
something that all small business owners go through. And so
Yeah.
we're in a much, much better place now where we can focus on growing instead of trying to fight those fires of like, what does it really take to run a business right now?
Yeah. Absolutely. And there are little things that, like, I know for me, and fortunately I have Neela, who's in the background right now, but I'm blessed to have her because there are so many little things that I don't know how to do. I don't want to know how to do. But as a small business owner, when you don't have the resources, it can be very difficult to delegate those things or not get them done because I want to use my platform to help veterans and other underserved talent to get into careers. I don't want to have to monitor my email and make sure nobody's hacking me and all those things. And I think for your clients, what would you say is the biggest asset you bring to your clients? And because I'm imagining what you do is similar to what Neela does for me and taking care of things they don't want to have to spend their mind on.
Yeah, but one of the things that we do as a business, and it's a majority of a lot of the business that we do what we call project rescues. And so
Okay.
typically where we get involved is a company is putting in our case, let's say a multi-million dollar ERP where they're very, very expensive to implement.
Yeah,
And usually something goes wrong. And
of course.
$2-3 million implementation. Now they're over budget by, and usually this is, kind of what we hear is they're over by 1 million, 2 million, those sort of numbers.
Wow.
So now we need to bring someone in to help get this fixed and on the right track. And usually that's where we come in, is we end
Okay.
up partnering with that client to try to fix a problem that is simply out of control. And we try to get ourselves where we regroup with the client so they can lean in on us to be their advocate to whoever the vendor is. And that's typically what we engage in.
Wow. I kind of I resonate with that because I was a relationship manager with a very large human resources company, and I had to multi-million dollar projects that payroll projects that they were implementing, and I had to be the one to go in and kind of calm the waters and that kind of thing. So I totally resonate with that. What is your like so tell us a success story over the 6 years. What's been kind of one of your proudest moments as a business owner?
I think it's different depending on how you look at that question. I think what
Okay.
probably the biggest, I think if there's something we could say is a huge success for us outside of just what we do for our clients, if we're just looking at the outcome of what our clients have been able to do for us, is being able to start that scholarship in the name of my parents.
Oh,
I would look
yes.
at that and I'd say that's
Oh,
our biggest win right now. That fact that my mom and dad, my dad came over from Mexico. My mom is Puerto Rican, and they
okay.
worked very, very hard to
No
try to
doubt.
get me the right education, get me through school. And
Yep.
unfortunately, my dad has passed. He can't quite see what we've done, but to be able to honor
Yeah.
he and my mom in a scholarship, huge win for us.
Oh,
And
it's
a
amazing.
scholarship especially that supports other Hispanic students who are just looking for the American dream. And
Yes.
so we partner with the Hispanic Alliance, and it's something that we're really proud of. I would say that's a huge win for us.
When did you start doing that?
This is our second year where we've sponsored
Okay.
students.
Wow. And so what is the scholarship for? Tell me more about that.
So it's again part of the Hispanic Alliance, and so they have a really large presence with high school, uh, just high school kids whose parents maybe have newly come over from South America, or maybe they're for sure second generation, and
Okay.
mom and dad just don't know how this school process works. My parents didn't. You know,
Sure.
I had no idea about this scholarship thing, and so they educate and they spend a lot of time with these students, just helping them try to figure out how to get through school and how to get them
Wow.
maybe into if college isn't their thing, learning a trade, and promoting, just getting involved in your community. And so we fell in love with that, and we decided that we wanted to partner with them so we could just try to inspire a whole new generation of kids that wanted nothing different than what I wanted when I was growing up.
That's amazing. So this is the second year. Last year, who do you remember who the winner was?
We had two young ladies, and
Okay.
they're I can't remember their names, but their bios are up on my website. We proudly
Nice.
display them out there. We're just really proud of them. When the girls, we had two, the girls are just outperforming the guys because again, we had two girls that won this year.
Yes.
That's right. So those girls are just outperforming these guys, and so we had two young ladies again win this year, and we're just really proud of them because it's just
Nice.
they're carrying the flag of saying we just want to have a better life and we want to make a difference in our community, and just
Yep.
it's something that we support. We really
Yeah.
love what Hispanic Alliance is doing.
Absolutely. No, that's fantastic. I love that. And I can envision, because just like when you had an opportunity to have a better life because your parents worked hard, they came here to give you that life. Now these ladies who got these scholarships, they're going to pay it forward. I just imagine that happening, because that is so great. So, but you also have a big family. You have six, am I
Yeah,
correct? Six kids? Yeah.
it
So,
is.
and Ashley works with the company, correct?
Right.
Yes. And she just got promoted. So that is super exciting. Wonderful. How is it working with family?
You know, it's actually I didn't know what to expect. The one thing that we get is, and it's funny how common we get this question is, how in the world do you work with your wife?
Right.
Oh, it's like if I had to work with my wife all day, I don't know that I could. I'm like, I don't.
Well, and you work from home too, so it's like you're 24/7, like there's no separation.
The thing is, we're tied at the hip anyway. So it's like if we're not working together, we're always together anyway. So we're pretty inseparable. And I just
Yeah.
tell people, I mean, there's no one I would trust to run the operations side of our business than my wife. And
Oh, yeah.
we're best friends, and we're just tied at the hip, and it just makes sense. It doesn't.
Yeah.
We do have this joke where this happened a few years back where I went down to the kitchen. I was making something to eat, and Elaine happened to be in the kitchen, and she said, "If you're in here making lunch, who's upstairs making money?" I'm like, "Oh, let me head upstairs. Let me
Cracking that whip.
realize the CFO of the company was going to be in the kitchen, while I was making lunch. I get it, but
That's great.
works real. I think it works really well for us.
Yeah. I think people have those kind of reactions. It's sad that that's human nature, to want to downplay something instead of celebrating it, because it really is. I mean, obviously, you're right. You're married. You have a great marriage. Why not capitalize on that? And her strengths bring the strengths to the business. Your strengths bring that strength to the business. So why not work together? Now, my husband and I are very, very, very different. He makes decisions very slowly and methodically, and I'm like, okay, I gotta make a decision. So I don't know that we could work together. I mean, we've been together almost 30 years, so clearly we're, something's working,
Right.
but I don't know that we could work together. So good for you. But I know your wife, so I can absolutely attest to her strengths and just what a great person she is. So good for you. So I guess what do you think about when you what would be your advice to another small business that somebody that's thinking about going into business? What would be your advice? You went through the accelerator. You probably worked with several that are thinking about or getting that down the road. What would be your advice?
I think definitely connect with coaches. If
Yeah.
all it takes is a phone call to another business owner to say, "Hey, listen, I want to start a business. Would you mind coaching me?"
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people that will say no. I mean, it's just asking. You got to look for help so you know what you're getting into, because I really my hope would be for any entrepreneur, small business owner, is make sure that your business plan is sound.
Hmm.
I know something that Elaine and I are just very guarded with is like, we never wanted to go in debt over the business. And so we are very protective of what we spend our money on and how we spend it, and the type of business we get in that generates revenue. We want to make sure that it's good type revenue that is something that we can benefit the client, and we can grow our business. And so
Yeah.
we're always evaluating that way. And it's just making sure that we can impart that to other people, is like, just
Yeah.
just be careful of the dream that you have, and just make sure it's sound, and bounce it off of other people, and
Yeah.
definitely get plugged into like your local chamber, because there's a ton of free resources and workshops that you can go to, and it's an opportunity for you to network with other business owners as well. So I think those are the kind of things I would tell a young entrepreneur or small business owner, is get plugged in, start networking.
How do you like? I know a lot of people. I've seen a lot of posts recently too on people asking for help. It's like, what keeps people from asking for help? Like when you went through the accelerator, did you meet people who weren't as good at asking for help, and why? Why do you think that is?
I think I don't want even want to say it's a sense of pride. I don't think it's a pride issue. I think it's, we
Huh?
don't know the right questions to ask. And because of that, we don't want to look foolish in asking the
Right?
wrong question.
Yeah.
So when we had one of our coaches was a former CFO of a really large company here in Greenville, and he walked us through, I think it was over 2 weeks, how to handle our books.
Mm.
I've never had anybody walk us through how to handle our books financially. And I remember coming back home and chatting with my wife and saying, I learned some things today, and it happened to be the same thing she was learning in the program she was doing. And
Right?
so it really meshed up well, but it was because we didn't know how to ask the right questions. We
Yeah.
didn't know who to ask it to. And
Yeah.
that's, I think, part of why we're not, sometimes small business owners don't ask, is because we don't want to seem foolish at the same time.
Yeah. And again, like you said before, we don't know what we don't know. And you're trying to start a business, you're trying to do what you wanted to do to have a business, and all these other things are going on. It's like, take a breath and stop and say, where do I need help? Because the resources are out there and people want to help. You just have to ask.
Yeah.
I heard someone say too that when you don't ask for help, I forget how he put it, but it was something like, when you don't ask for help, you're denying that person something they want to give and want to make them feel good about themselves, that help they're going to give to you. So I think about that, but it's hard. It's hard to like know what to ask, and you don't want to waste someone's time either. So I know for me, it's like, I don't want to waste someone's time if I don't have the right question to ask. But I think the key that I've learned is just start those conversations, because you don't know where it will lead, and you will learn something. Maybe it wasn't what you set out to learn, but you will learn something. And now you've got a resource and a mentor in your pocket. So what's the future? What's the future for 365 digital technologies?
We've been very fortunate. We started off just in the project consulting side, and what
Okay.
we've grown into is now we're doing CIO advisory, which is that chief
Oh,
information officer. So
yeah.
we've got some people we've added to the team that can be advisors to other CIOs, or we can fill in as a fractional CIO basis. And
Nice.
the one thing that we've added here lately, which we are really excited about and has taken off really well, is within the last 6 months, um, we've added the OCM side, which is that organizational change management piece.
Okay.
And that has been huge because part of the gap that we had is as project consultants, like we have tunnel vision. We see the task in front of us and we kind of barrel through everybody to get that
Right.
done. The OCM side is the people part of that to say,
Okay.
while I'm focused on executing these tasks, the OCM side is focused on the people and getting them bought into the strategy. So I don't
Yeah.
have to barrel through. They're bought in on it. And so we've been really excited about that. So that's something we're going to continue to grow and just adding some of those services over the past 6 years has been a huge dream because, it was just Elaine and I in a dream. So nice to be able,
Like a lot of small businesses, that's really, yeah.
that's it. So it's nice to be able to grow that out now.
Nice. So I do see, I mean, I don't know if you know Marcus Lemonis. Have you ever heard of him?
I haven't.
He's he owns Camping World, among many other things that he does, but he's a philanthropist, entrepreneur, but he's got a show. He used to have a show called The Prophet, and now he's got a show called The Fixer. I envision you on a TV show now, Guillermo, because this is what he does. He goes into these small businesses and helps them figure all these things out. I just kind of see you as you're project managing and doing these ERP works. I can see you in a TV show. So let's go.
It's funny you say that because it's hard describing to people what I do exactly. And so someone asked one of my daughters, what is it that your dad does again? And she said, okay, the easiest way to think about it is my dad is the Gordon Ramsay of kitchen nightmares for his business. That's what he does.
That's awesome.
So I'm like, that's great, except I don't get a cheeseburger at the end of the show, or get to eat, but that's okay. It basically is that. I mean, we're going into companies and we're helping fix a lot of pretty major issues that they walk into.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, no, that's pretty cool. So, wow. So what would you see as like your like dream for the company? Like where do you see like the next 5, next 6 years? And congratulations again, because that 5 year mark, a lot of businesses don't make it to the 5 year mark. Now you got the 10 year mark, I think is the next milestone. So, and we're at 7, a little over 7. So we're kind of in that same range that you're in. But where do you see the next like big thing for the company?
I think we want to continue to add probably more service lines. We
Okay.
had the goal of saying, it'd be great if we can hit international, but we've already hit that this year. You know,
Oh,
we hit the national, probably year 2 or 3, and now we've gone where we're going to be doing business in South America and Europe, and so
nice. Congratulations.
appreciate it. So we're continuing to grow business wise, but I think we want to start adding more service lines and as a personal dream for my wife and I is I think we want to continue to just add more scholarship availability and just grow
Yeah,
that fund out. So that's something we want to do on our end.
good for you. So, how do you navigate doing business in other countries? Because I'm sure there's listeners out there thinking, I want to grow globally. How do you navigate doing business in other countries?
Yeah, that's not easy. I think the idea seems really cool, but when you realize that
Yeah.
you might have to take a 3 a.m. phone call because that's your client's time zone, it suddenly is like, oh, maybe I'll leave this to somebody else. But the
Yeah.
reality is we're trying to partner with other firms overseas. And so that
Okay.
way we can develop a network of partnerships so we can keep growing this thing out. And a lot of it is just
Yeah.
it's building relationships with other partners that have the same dream and the same aspirations, and you partner and you do great things together.
Wow, that's a perfect way to end. We're out of time, unfortunately, but I think that's perfect because that's something we learned this year too. It's like I tried for so many years to just be the ramjet getting out there to try to grow my business, but it came down to we really needed to find partners. And maybe I think the answer is look at your business and determine what it is that will get you that growth. And if it is a partner, find partners, find other people that you can work with. So we've got 3 big projects we're working on this year that I'm super proud of and super excited about. But yeah, so I think that's awesome that you guys have figured that out. How did you look at, as we close out, because I still have a question. How did you look at saying, well, we're going to go global now? Because I mean, there's still a lot of work to be done here in the U.S. But how did you decide that, Europe and South America was the place to expand?
It was it wasn't anything we did intentional. It happened to be that the rescue that we went into said, "Oh, by the way, we've got these things."
Okay.
So, as almost every small business owner knows, when someone says, "Hey, do you want to do the work?" Sure, of course,
Right.
of course we will, because it's just again, it's right up our alley, and it's exciting
Good.
to have that kind of growth.
Yeah, absolutely. And that speaks to your relationship with your clients for them to offer that opportunity to you. So congratulations. But it also goes back to what you said before, that you and Elaine sit down and look at decisions like that from a practical perspective. Are we going to make money on this? Is it going to help our growth? Is it not going to cost us? Because people can say yes to things and then find out financially it's not feasible and it turns out to be a bad decision. So I love that you and Elaine sit down and really talk through, because I think that's important for small business owners to know. So, well, congratulations on all your success, Guillermo. And thanks so much for sharing your story. And I look forward to watching the scholarships and seeing that grow for you and just all your success. So thanks for coming on today.
Appreciate it. Thank you.